Ancient Egypt and Nubia, Section 1, the Geography of the Nile. We're going to be looking at the geography of the Nile, the way the Nile flows in this section, and we're going to try to be understanding of all the different regions that are formed along the Nile. Okay, so the path of the Nile. First of all, the Nile River is the world's longest river. It's made up of two sources, the Blue Nile, which starts here in Ethiopia, and the White Nile, which starts in Central Africa. Both of these rivers meet in the city of Khartoum today, which is the beginning of the Nile. And then they meet and they form, and the Nile flows in this direction all the way down towards the Mediterranean Sea. The Nile through ancient Nubia. The Nubian section of the Nile contained 6 cataracts, or breaks in the river. And you see on this map, you can see 3 of these cataracts. These are breaks in the river where there are a lot of rocks and rapids, so that there are obstacles for boats to be able to sail straight through. Lower Nubia, as you can see on this map, is located between the first and second cataract. These areas had little farmland. Ancient Nubia. Further south, between the second and sixth cataracts, is Upper Nubia, an area with more farmland. The farmland was a 2-mile strip on either side of the river. The path of the Nile. Now, this map is showing you the Egyptian part of the Nile. Notice there are no cataracts in this area. The Egyptian part of the Nile is 700 miles long, from the very first cataract in Nubia all the way down to the Mediterranean Sea. In the north, the Nile spread out to form a fertile marshy area called Lower Egypt. So this area here is called Lower Egypt. The Delta. At the end of the Nile, in the north, the river split into several streams that flowed into Mediterranean Sea. As you can see, these streams were shaped like a triangle, and so they're called the Delta, which contain very, very rich farmland. As you can see, there are cities along this area. Memphis is one that became a big city, and you can see Cairo, where it's located today, is right by the Delta. And you can see where the pyramids are. The pyramids are also on the left side of the Nile. The gifts of the Nile. In the spring, water comes rushing down and carries rich soil called silt to the land. And this is silt which fertilizes the land and makes it fertile for growing food. The Egyptians praised Hapi, the god of the Nile, for providing food to its people. Now, there are 2 kinds of land. They refer to it as black land and red land. Black land was the land that had fertile soil, good for farming. Red land was the desert land surrounding the Nile, protecting it from invaders. Egypt did not have to worry about invaders and enjoyed 2,000 years of peace. The desert really protected the civilization of Egypt around the Nile River. And that was one of the reasons why it was able to have such a long civilization. Growth of civilization along the Nile. From 4000 BC, communities appeared along the Nile. Okay, and I'm certain that they appeared in the Egyptian section of the Nile, where there were no cataracts and where the farmland was plentiful at best. Nubians fished in the Nile because farming was difficult. So as you go further down to the Nile, the farmland becomes more narrow. So fishing was the best source of food. And the Nile acted as a highway for trade. The Red Sea was a link to Mesopotamia as well, and you can see where the Red Sea is. If you crossed it and you went north, you would hit Phoenicia and Israel on this part of the Mesopotamian region. Goods were brought by caravan and overland trade routes to towns in Egypt. Okay, key ideas to remember. We need to remember that there are 2 sources of the Nile. The Blue and the White Nile rivers both meet at Khartoum to form the Nile, the longest river in the world. What are the differences between the Nubian sections of the Nile and the Egyptian sections of the Nile? The Egypt part has no cataracts and has more farmland. The Nubian part has 6 cataracts and has less farmland, making it more difficult to use the Nile for trade. Why is the Delta region so important? The Delta region has the richest farmland. This is the point where the Nile River meets the Mediterranean Sea. Why is the desert so important to Egypt? The desert acted as a barrier against invaders, which gave Egypt its long existence as an empire, 2,000 years.